So Abner, we have some news now about what's happening with Android Show. It's going to be a little bit ahead of I.O. They're going to tease things before I.O. What do you reckon?
High level, the Android Show is something Google has been doing for a bit, maybe a year or two. It's just something they do. Like the last one was after MWC. They had some. They showed some devices. It's a show in the true sense of the word, in that they just show you what's the latest new features, some developer stuff. But this one is more of a keynote. It's less Android Show, more a proper product announcement keynote. 1 week ahead of I.O., exactly, same time. And we're going to get exciting updates, officially. Some news about the Android platform, which is what Google calls it when the whole thing across different form factors. And I guess it's interesting. I guess the two ways I've come down to see this is either there is so much Android news that it doesn't fit in I.O., or I guess the more cynical is there's so much AI news at I.O. that there's not enough time for other Android things.
I kind of agree, I kind of subscribe to that as well. That's a disappointment, isn't it? When we just lay it out, it's kind of quite sad to think that I.O. could potentially be. It's not going to be devoid of Android, is it? It's just going to be a side note to AI, which last year was
that was
kind of the first sign of that, right?
Absolutely the criticism last year from many people, and yes, because the Android portion was short, minutes in length, and a lot of it was AI, and the other stuff was Android 15's privacy and security features. So this year, okay, so the Android Show, again, like I said, there's usually some developer stuff to it, but this one seems so much more consumer facing, more of like a product keynote, and I think that is a positive in terms of, I think we'll see more traditional news, new features, that kind of stuff that hasn't made the I.O. main stage in a bit. Again, from the developer sessions that we've already seen, there are this Android TV stuff, there's Gemini and Cars stuff, there's Material 3 Expressive. There will be the traditional Android developer news at I.O. So I think they will, and Android XR, obviously. I think again, officially, that there will still be Android news at I.O. Google said that ahead of time in announcing the Android Show. So I think it comes down to how big the news event, the Android Show, is, and what people expect, what people want, and what Google actually has in hand.
I wonder if let's put a positive spin on it. I wonder if separating out Android a week before means that Android is strong enough, the things that they're going to talk about is potentially strong enough to have its own moment in the spotlight. Like you say, if it's detached from AI, that in some ways is a good thing, because maybe there is an actual bit of self-reflection on Google's part that not everybody is all in on AI, and there are going to be people out there who are Android first, AI second, or not even AI on the table. But again, I do wonder if this is a good thing.
That is I'm not sure how to quantify that sentiment, but that is absolutely a sentiment that people feel. Maybe the enthusiast community especially, but I think it's an AI first world, to use Google's parlance. It's there's no separating the two. AI is going to drive genuine improvements across Android, and I don't think there's any escaping that. And if that's a sentiment that people feel, it's on Google to show improvements, show features powered by AI that are more impactful, be it summarizing notifications or prioritizing what people see. it's on them to make it more consumer friendly, to make it more interesting. But I think at the end of the day, the core of it is that AI will drive really powerful things. We just need to see it in an OS setting, in a user-facing setting.
I think the good thing as well is that obviously we're kind of aware that we're very aware that Google are going to go heavy AI again this year. I.O., if I can say it, I can't get it out of my mouth. The subtitle of I.O. edition for the Android show is kind of a good thing in some respects, because I guess we're not left at almost scratching our heads as to why they would do this before I.O. So alluding to what you said earlier, I'm kind of pleased in some respects that it is being tied to it. It's being tied to I.O. It's almost like that teaser, that appetizer, the starter, whatever, before the main event, the main dish. And again, the promise of more exciting updates in I.O. too. Yeah. Yeah, like I do wonder if they'll kind of, if it is just a teaser, if it is just basically, okay, here's what we have for you coming, and please stay tuned kind of thing. I don't know, have they done this ever before? I can't even think of anything that they've done like this before, apart from product announcements, at least from a software standpoint. Did they do anything with Bard/Gemini back when it was announced and they kind of teased it? Did they do anything like that? I can't even think.
No, that was more not like a keynote set, not a proper keynote setting. But yeah, so it's again, every year there's the issue is the main Android release no longer having tentpoles, no longer having tentpole features that excite people. That is the shift that they've made, and it reflects how they can put so much stuff in Google Play services and roll it out over the course of the year, like the cross-device connectivity stuff, instant hotspot, the stuff they usually announce at CES. It's to their credit they can do that, but this unbundling really lessens the yearly OS release, which I think should be reconsidered in terms of people from iOS, from that model. People expect one big update every year, and I think there's a high value to continuing that in some form, because that's what people expect.
Yeah, but then going by this Android show, if they can use that as that almost signpost for these features that are coming out and effectively give a roadmap for them, I can kind of understand why Google would do that. I agree with you. I mean, obviously, we're both going to be a little bit biased. We like that once a year, huge drop, all of the new features in one go. But I think from a user perspective, well, apart from them not necessarily knowing about the features because they get drip fed them, I do think it makes sense to just push things when they're ready. And if that is every 3 months, then I have no problem with that.
I think I disagree with that, because it's okay.
You do?
So
okay.
The quarterly cycle, the quarterly cycle features, they even combined, they do not make as big a splash as the OS release. Again, I'm thinking about the iOS model because it works. It's what people expect. Software coming to them once a year, big update. They get new features. People are excited about them. And people even say, don't install it because this update does X, Y, and Z, etc. That whole cycle every year is a cycle that can't be avoided. And it's what the majority of people are trained to. In the past year or two or more, we've had these seasonal Android features about 4 times a year. I just don't think there's enough excitement, or I guess there's a chicken and egg problem of it. There's nothing major enough to catch people's attention, or is it because it's not? I just don't think it breaks through to people, this quarterly approach. It's the technical way Google can do things. It just doesn't align with people's perceptions. And I think if Google wants that bigger splash every year, they want more excitement around the features that can reach tens of millions of people in one go, I think they should rethink some things.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so I agree with that. You've convinced me there that the big release does make sense from just I guess it's perception form. Yeah, it kind of is. It's the perceived expectation. Although I've explained that terribly. I think from a sales point of view, though, I wonder if this is just being used to almost drive people to Pixel to get those quarterly updates, because there are things that are still tied to Pixel, right? We do get certain things that broadly come as those Android drops, or whatever Google wants to call them now. They should have just stuck with feature drops. But I do wonder how hard that's going to be lent into in terms of marketing, because I don't think Google's really done that as much as they probably could have. It doesn't help that, like you say, the person who's buying the device, I would probably argue we're very much in the minority, because the average person on the street doesn't really care, apart from that one time a year where they get that OTA notification that says, "Oh, upgrade to Android 16," and then it has that quite extensive change log. Whereas you get those ones every couple of months, and you don't really get them, do you? Now you get the Pixel Tips. The Pixel Tips app tries to lean into it, but again, you're going to skip that, go straight to your home screen, and you don't know what's going on. So you've kind of convinced me a little bit, but also I'm still holding on to the fact that I quite like the idea of little, almost update presents, as it were. Like you get a little gift every now and again. I kind of like that idea, but I do agree with you. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm a fence sitter on this one, Abner. But like, let's just getting back into the Android show. Kind of what we potentially think we're going to see. Do you think they're just going to go in and go whole hog on talking about what's coming, or they're going to go back and look at what they've done well over the past Android 15 launch and stuff like that? Because it's one of those things. It's like, I guess they can take stock of what Android 15's done well, and at the same time talk about like the rollout of that previously, or is it just going to be full future? Here's where we're going with things.
Again, they haven't done this keynote format in ever, really, so it's hard to project, but it's Android 16. I feel like Android 16 is, in its current state, in what we know is in there, I think it's a prime candidate for this Android show. I don't think... there's still an expectation that Android 16 has to appear at I/O, and I think they try to keep that. So maybe that's... I don't know. I'm really on two sides about whether they try to just move the full proper Android section in whatever state it's been for the past few years to the Android show. That's usually a cursory mention of Android 15 and Android 16, of some new features that are coming. I wonder if all that gets moved over to the Android show. And rather what I/O is basically Android XR talk, or this desktop Android thing we've been speculating about. I wonder if that's how they do the split. But looking at the other stuff, I don't know, stuff like Android TV, if there are any new features, Android Google TV, Wear OS. I will probably see the next Wear OS 6, I guess, based on 16. If it's, again, Wear OS updates aren't that big these days.
I wonder if Google, obviously this is, like you say, it's almost new ground. I wonder if they'll bring out partners. I wonder if they'll bring out Samsung and co.
It's not a big stage. Physically, it's not a big stage. They're filming it in the Google store in Mountain View, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but I wonder if they'll have a representative from Samsung there. And there's a reason why I kind of asked is will they give like an overview of what things have gone well over the past 12 to 18 months or whatever it is? Because obviously there's been a bit of disaster for Samsung rolling out their Android 15 update, and we're already that won't get a mention obviously, but it'd be fun. It would be quite funny to see Google bring out and talk about what Samsung are doing, what Xiaomi are doing, what OnePlus are doing, because obviously their biggest partner and one of the driving forces behind a lot of these features that we're seeing on new devices and upcoming devices is, like it or not, driven by Samsung. And I'd be really interested to see how that will go down with a potential audience. I mean, I guess it's still quite a niche thing. I feel like the Android show is for us, as opposed to, like you say, the average person who's expecting a 1 year OTA update on their device. But yeah, I think all of those things do make sense to have a showcase for Wear OS I was going to call it content. It's not content, is it? Functionality. Android TV, which I kind of have a real soft spot for Android TV as someone who uses Google TV for tens of hours a day. I kind of want to see some things just outside of the regular smartphone stuff, because how, I guess, vanilla Android 16 in its current incarnation feels right now. I guess with the recent beta release, it doesn't feel like we've kind of moved anywhere in terms of the user facing stuff. But I guess that kind of leads into what your expectations are for that. Do you think we'll get another beta in between now and I/O, or
No.
do you think that's kind of no?
No. By beta, like point, I think we'll get a point release,
Point
a
one.
patch update, whatever. We need the May security patch on this April beta 4 devices. That's probably happening. So let's talk about how much Android 16 we'll see in the Android show. And so past few months, big new interface leak coming. You had a video this week showing all the things that have leaked but have not appeared in the beta so far. And the question is when all of this is going to be announced and when all of it is going to actually launch. So in terms of announcement, I don't think there's no way all that new stuff, that significant new user interface changes, make it for the initial Android 16 release in early June. The OS needs to be finalized, needs to be locked down by now. It's doing the partner testing, carrier testing, etc., etc. There's no way it makes it. All these radical design changes, which we'll talk about in a bit. I don't think that happens. So
I agree with you. I don't think it happens.
I guess the question here is whether, with Material U in 2021, Android 12, they announced Material U, then they showed off the new OS. They showed off some apps that adopted redesign. So this year we have Material 3 Expressive. It's basically like 3.5 Material. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't announce it in the same way that Material U showed off what's new in Android 12. I think the feeling we have right now is that maybe it's exclusive to the Pixel 10, this new UI.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I do think Pixel 10 would be one of those things where Google could really showcase it on their. Obviously, they're going to showcase it on their own hardware anyway. But like as a, almost like, I mean, does Apple do this? Does Apple, like Samsung? I know Samsung definitely do it where they have functionality available in the latest release and then it drip feeds down. But it's slightly different how they handle updates. So I wonder if, like you're saying, that all of the potential stuff that's going to be showcased is maybe they tease the Pixel 10. Like we kind of, I don't know. It does feel up in the air, right? It feels like they could do one of a number of things, and putting this show before I/O is kind of like it could be very much helping separate their made by Google kind of push.
So the thing about there's Android 16. We'll know QPR1, there'll be QPR2, etc. Is it weird for them to say, look, all these new features are coming to Android 16, but not the one that you're about to get next month?
Yeah,
the
that would
one
be strange.
3 months from.
I would be irritated if they did that.
Yeah.
Genuinely. I'm not, it doesn't even directly, I mean, I guess it doesn't technically affect what we're doing, but it would really, really annoy me.
Yeah, it's like, you don't care about the first Android 16 update. You have to care about the next one. The optics of that don't play well, I don't think, because it'll be like Android 16, wait for the next one, that kind of thing. I don't think that the optics play well for them to, even if they say like they show it off coming later this year, I guess, but again, that builds the idea of, to regular people, so that's not coming with this big update I just got on my phone. I don't think that plays well.
Yeah, the only other way that I think they could do it, and it still would have loads and loads of pushback, is here's what we're working on coming later this year. Like I don't think there's any reality where it doesn't look good, but I guess, it's like if this is going to be almost part of Google's calendar moving forward, and they're going to do this on a regular basis, it is only ever going to be a platform to almost tease things that are coming with the next Pixel. If the next Pixel is always going to be in August, so it's almost like they can't win by doing that. If they come out and confirm all of the stuff that's going to happen, which again we're going to get into in a moment, but they can't win. There's no way for them to. The optics will be horrendous. It will not look good because they'll get into a situation. I mean, I guess if they are, it's all user facing, so it's not like it's AI that they don't have, that kind of thing like Apple. But with Apple doing that last year with iOS 18 and having so many things missing from the final builds, Google can't afford to do that now. I just don't think it makes sense to do that. I think it would be very, very silly. Maybe, like you say, they just go into Material You Expressive and talk about the changes that could potentially be arising as a result of that.
They can just talk about that. Again, it's not as big as the first Material You release. And they can just talk about Material to Expressive in the context of apps rather than the OS. So that's how they would handle that. But yeah, let's talk about what some of the stuff that's coming. Starting on the lock screen, again, in reflection of the pixelness of everything. At a glance moves below the clock. Okay, I guess that's nicer for one-handed usability. I don't think I have that much of an opinion on that.
Do you think people would like? Because my thought process is maybe the only reason they're putting that there is for people who are going to look where the thumbprint is. They're not looking at the lock screen, so you're looking a couple of centimeters or millimeters above where you've put your thumbprint. But again, I feel like the at a glance is so ingrained within our own psyche as people using Pixel. You know where it is, top left.
Yeah,
that's it.
And that's where it's on the home screen. So I don't. We'll see what they're doing there. So unlocking your phone, you get your first example blurring on the box on the keypad screen. You can see your background wallpaper. Let's jump into blurring. You swipe down for quick settings, blurred. You open recent multitasking, the background is blurred. It's blurring everywhere. And I guess my big question is, how does that fit in with dynamic color? Is the blurring tinted somehow? Curious.
It's a good question. It's a good question how they do that. But then does that fit in with the rest of what Material You was trying to do before? Like, the idea of blurring everything doesn't feel to me...
No, it doesn't.
Traditionally Material You? I don't know.
Maybe Material to Expressive has a new approach to blurring. Well, there's so much blurring in iOS. That's the thing. I hope it wasn't reactionary because I don't see... I'm not... Blurring is fine. The grassy, it looks cool, I guess. But again, my big question is how it fits into it. Material 3 with dynamic color. So quick settings. Not the major change we were led to believe going into Android 16. It's basically the existing one. New brightness slider, the new Material 3 component for that. The tiles have been reworked. Again, blurring, but it's nothing drastic. It's just a modernization there.
I'm wondering how people react to the slightly different shaped tile. Is it tiles? I guess they're tiles and toggles. Like the mixture of shapes and sizes and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of that. I like it to be a bit more uniform. But do you think that there's it does feel strange. I mean, the dark mode is going to make some changes as well to that, but they don't seem to be as, how would I describe it, obvious. I think whether these changes come to fruition, which obviously I'm sure they will, there seems to be some elements that don't make sense from I'm not really sure how it's going to be almost digested by the average person. Like they're quite substantial changes in terms of like what you're expecting. Press a button, slightly different color. It highlights the tile currently. Now it seems to be a little bit less obvious to me. I don't know how you feel about it in that respect.
Yeah, the inconsistency. I think that's fortunately or unfortunately, that's material to expressive shapes that reacting to things that feels like it's going to be a big deal. I'm honestly fine with quick settings. I've made my peace with how it's 8 versus 9, how it's a rectangle versus a square grid. Don't get me wrong.
I guess for me, I'm one of these people where I quite like the long, elongated kind of tile shape because
easy to press.
It's obvious to me what it is. It's easy. It's obvious. It's easy to press, yeah, but it's obvious to me what it is. I think sometimes when you have those quick settings tiles and they don't necessarily have a label on, or you can't read the label quickly, sometimes the obscure icons are a little bit less, well, they're just not obvious. And I feel like the longer tiles does make a bit of sense to me anyway. I mean, maybe I'm showing my age there, but I feel like going ahead and changing that again for the sake of change feels a bit kind of counterintuitive because people are going to have to learn again. Oh, is that active? Is that not active? Is this an actual floating menu that I can open, or is it a toggle on and off? Like, I hope that. I mean, if they do go ahead and show some of this Android show, I hope that they are explicit about how it's going to make changes.
Yeah, we want the thinking behind it. Status bar. It's bold kurk, which you've started to see the signs of in beta 4. New status bar icons for everything. They're more separated. It's not one cohesive block. You get to see the parts of it. And the battery is rotated 90 degrees. And you place the percentage inside if you have that enabled. I think that looks god-awful.
I'm not going to lie. I think it looks god-awful. I hope that is not the final design.
It probably
because
is.
I feel like that everything looks a little bit...
Okay, it looks like iOS. I hate when Samsung did it because the pill they chose does not look like a battery icon. I don't know. It looks bad to me in as is the percentage in the battery. I guess that saves space. That makes it lets you shrink that right half of the status bar, but not a fan.
I think there are some elements here that feel like they're lifted from every other Android OEM, and it's almost like a hodgepodge mixture of things for the sake of being a mixture of things, and maybe that might work out for Google, I don't know. But I'm currently using the OnePlus 13, so I can't really criticize anyone or criticize it, but it looks really similar to that, but also like Samsung and iOS at the same time. Just bear with me, that does make sense in my head. But it's almost like they've made a change there for the sake of change. I feel like they could have done better with the icon they already have. And I quite like the icon that they have currently on Pixel because it's uniquely Pixel. Nobody else seems to have that icon. But I feel like we're losing a lot of solidity, if that makes sense. Like Android on Pixels now, and I mean it in terms of like a user interface design, it feels really solid. Whereas this feels like flexible for the sake of being flexible and clear for the sake of being clear, like all that transparency. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. It's one of those things I guess we're going to have to use to get used to and see it in action properly. It pains me to say that I don't enjoy the design from what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I just need to know how blurring fits in with Material U because maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's why they're moving to Material to expressive. But blurred without a solid story, without them following iOS and every other Android OEM at this point, that's a bit of a shame. Because the solid colors of Material U, they work. They're distinct. But we'll see. Let's see what other stuff in the OS. New volume slider.
I like the tab. I like the pull tab. I almost like the pull tab, the kind of the icon to show you where it is. But again, everything feels enlarged for the sake of being enlarged. And I know that we're getting phones with bigger screens, and obviously this is going to go across different types of displays. But I'm interested to see how this works with, like you say, you've mentioned dynamic color there. We're only really seeing it in one color option. We're seeing it in a light blue / navy blue color. how's this going to react with different colors? Because I can see there's been some inconsistency errors. They're going to have to mix and match colors to make things more visible in the light backgrounds, and then in the darker backgrounds, how are the colors going to work? Do you know what I mean? Like, the tones seem a bit kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's that's example. Quick settings. People for the past few years, some people don't like that there's no that the quick settings have always been dark. So maybe blurring is the answer to that in terms of using blurring to distinguish parts of the system UI. Sure. But yeah, like there's one image of the light quick settings and dark quick settings, and the difference is kind of negligible.
There's basically no. They've just flipped the colors of the actual toggles that you're going to use, brightness, slight. Like, that's what I'm worried about. I don't know how that. I mean, obviously there are loads of pitfalls of kind of, in air quotes, trying to predict the weather with this. You're basically trying to enable things that may not be in their full-fledged format, and it's great. I'm not denouncing the fact that we're seeing things leaked ahead of time, but I'm guessing like anything, you have to take these all with a grain of salt, because you're potentially seeing it enabled at a point in which it may be 75% of the way there. And I don't know, when was the last time we saw a big OS leak like this? Android 12, just before we saw screenshots of Material U for the first time. I remember it like it was yesterday, and thinking that is such a huge departure from what we've seen before. Would Google go ahead and do this? And with the reasoning, you can kind of understand it. Once Material U and Dynamic Color was kind of announced and detailed, it made sense. These changes don't feel like they make much sense right now. And obviously, when you look at the light versus dark themes, there's so many inconsistencies from the screenshot, i.e. there is the settings toggle that's got a black outline, and the power button has a light blue outline, and then obviously the user profile has a black outline with the image. That doesn't fit in with the rest of this theming, so that just shows you that it's not fully themed, to me anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm always wary of seeing these things. It's cool to see, I guess, even conceptually. We've seen Google working on it. I don't know. I want to know what you think. Do you think it would have made more sense to Google if they are going to continue with that really insane, customizable quick settings panel? Is that something that they've just said, hey, we're going to ditch it. We've made our bed. We're going to lie in it, if that makes sense. Because this feels like they've just kind of given up. They said, oh, we're going to try that, and then they've said, nah, we'll just make it look a little bit different.
Yeah, it was like the idea of that early thing that leaked was you're splitting the notifications and you're splitting quick settings, which I hated. I hated that idea. I turned it off on Samsung. On One UI 7 immediately. It's too iOS-y. It's a waste of making you do two taps to access quick settings. Was not a fan of that, so I'm glad they're sticking with the current thing. But the idea of giving people that option does not seem very pixely. Like, it's such a drastic thing to give people the option to choose between.
It doesn't. Yeah, I agree with you actually when you say that. It doesn't feel like something Google would do. I feel like they'll do things for better or worse, even if it isn't a good idea. Like the original changes, that if Google can justify it, they will justify it. Whereas these don't feel as justified. It feels like if they were happy to have a separate quick settings and notification pane, to be honest, I don't think it would affect me that much. I don't think I would be that bothered. But I think people who utilize it as one access panel would be very annoyed. And I agree with you. It does feel a bit strange to have something that you can enable and disable that almost feels like it should be on Samsung or on OnePlus or on Xiaomi or whatever. Like that's the kind of thing that they do. They offer something above and beyond what Pixel will potentially do. And the reason why people like Pixel is because it is the way it is, if that makes sense. I mean, how do we feel about it on the whole, though? Do we think do we think it's Google's making the right decisions if these are all going to be truthful? Or
I think to go back, I need the justification first. I need to see what their new design system is, what the thinking behind it is, and whether how much the OS itself conforms to it. Again, this is even before touching upon what the apps are doing, but I just need to see what their rationale, why. Hopefully they're doing all this blurring with a reason, that there's a justification, that they see some kind of benefit for app design, for user interaction, all that. I just need the justification. How about you?
I will save my full judgment until I see it in action. I do think justification's huge. The only thing I'm excited by is the return of some of the customization within Pixel Launcher.
Oh yeah,
I think Pixel Launcher needs to be a bit more robust. But other than that, I'm kind of, I'm going to save my judgment because I was hypercritical of Android 12 before that came out, and I really love Android 12 and the post Android 12 releases. I think it makes sense to have a device that's almost utilizes some of the best parts of Google design. But so I guess we'll take everything with this. Like any leak, it's not like a hardware leak where it's either it is or it isn't. These things can change a little bit. It's a little bit more flexible, and we've already seen that with previous leaks, that the quick settings, for instance, looks like it's toned down again. But like anything, we'll let you know once we know more, and we may see more leaks of this ahead of Pixel 10, because I think if they're going to do anything, I think Pixel 10 would be the perfect place to put a brand new UI design on, because we didn't see that last year, and that was a complaint leveled at the Pixel 9 series. So I don't know. We will see as well in the next week.
Month. It'll be a busy
month coming up as we roll up and very, very quickly on Google I/O, which will be, as you all know, all listeners out there, we will be there in person. I will be getting sunburned. Abner will be directing me away from the hot California sun. And I'm excited. I'm hoping we get to see more with this Android show and learn a little bit more about what we can potentially get our hands on in the next few months, because Android's still our bread and butter. Just want to say thanks, Abner, for joining me. It's been a really interesting, illuminating chat. I love talking Android. We know we love talking Android. But it's again, take everything with a grain of salt, as always. Thanks.
Yep. Bye.